Chapter 341. Sandy did not want Gu Meng Meng or Colin to worry, so she wanted to say that it did not hurt. But when she looked up and saw Gu Meng Meng winking at her, she recalled what Gu Meng Meng had instructed her to do just now, so she whimpered pitifully, probably in pain. Gu Meng Meng had been paying attention to Colin from the corner of her eyes, and indeed, he froze the moment he heard Sandy's voice. She nodded her head silently, thinking to herself, although this fool is slow, at least he has feelings for Sandy. So if she succeeds in matchmaking them, it would be considered as a marriage. So she continued, silly Sandy, if Nina snatches anything from you in the future, just give it to her. Look around you, the best fighter is only Bode, a first-level orc. How can he fight against Nina? Although Quentin, a third-level male beast, is not around, but there is still a second-level orc among Nina's partners, right? You know you can't beat her, so just retreat and avoid her in the future. If she wants to snatch your food, just give it to her. If she wants to snatch your beast skin, just give it to her. If she wants to kill you one day, sigh, just accept your fate. Sandy tilted her head, completely not understanding what Gu Meng Meng meant. She did not say that the previous time. Sandy clearly remembered that she had fought with Nina on the morning of the bacon, and Gu Meng Meng had taught her that if Nina provoked her again, she would directly transform into a bear and slap her to death. Gu Meng Meng squinted her eyes, and Sandy whimpered softly. Gu Meng Meng did not need to translate to know that she was saying pain. Gu Meng Meng nodded her head in approval, then sighed with a heavy heart and said, from what I see, you should find a chance this year to choose a second-level male as your partner. Don't care if you like him or not, at least you have someone to support you, so that Nina will have to think twice before bullying you in the future. Sandy wanted to say something, but after mumbling a few times, she could only whimper, pain. Gu Meng Meng muttered to herself, I know. You only mate with males you like, then why don't you tell me, what kind of males do you like? Let me help you choose from the tribe. Or, do you have a suitable candidate in mind? When Gu Meng Meng asked this, her eyes were fixed on Colin. Although Colin was boiling water with his back facing the two females, his stiff back and ears that involuntarily moved closer to Gu Meng Meng's side clearly revealed his concern. Sandy was even more confused. Didn't Gu Meng Meng already guess that she liked Colin in the morning? Why are you asking a question that you already know the answer to? Gu Meng Meng gave Sandy a look, then acted as if she had suddenly realized something and said, oh, I remember, you said you like males like that, right? Colin was speechless. What did that mean, puzzled? Gu Meng Meng added, all right, don't worry, I will help you find that kind of male now. With that, Gu Meng Meng winked at Sandy and moved her little head away from her legs. Then, she patted Colin's shoulder and said, I'll leave this place to you. Take good care of Sandy for me. If Nina's partner comes to find trouble with her later, beat him to death. If he dies, it'll be on me, understand? Colin's muscles twitched, he clenched his teeth and nodded seriously. Gu Meng Meng turned around and walked out of the cave, so that Sandy and Colin could be alone. But she had forgotten one thing, which was that she did not tell Sandy other than pain, she could say anything else, aside from the topic. Colin, Sandy, are you hungry? Sandy. Pain. Colin, Sandy, in the future when Nina bullies you, run away and find Gu Meng Meng or me. I'll protect you, alright? Sandy. Pain. Colin, Sandy, I really like you, how about, you accept me as your partner? Sandy. Pain. Chapter 342. The moment Gu Meng Meng came out, Elvis went up to her and carried her up. He tore off the wet beast skin on her feet and placed her feet on his stomach to warm them up. Where are we going? Elvis asked. Gu Meng Meng laughed coldly and said, Nina's house. Elvis frowned. He knew that Gu Meng Meng would not tolerate Sandy's injury any longer. Gu Meng Meng tilted her head and smiled at Elvis. She said, even if you let Nina participate in the beauty pageant, can you guarantee that she will not take the opportunity to announce my affairs to the public? Won't we be in a more passive position then? Instead of avoiding, why not take the initiative to attack? For the beauty pageant, I will participate. While everyone is here, I will announce my identity as the messenger of the beast deity. That way, at least no one will dare to create trouble openly. As for the hidden stab, even if I don't show myself, I won't be able to hide for long. Elvis nodded and did not say a word. Even though Gu Mingming's plan was different from what he had discussed with Leah, he believed in Gu Mengmeng and did not need any other reasons. He would do as she said. When Gu Mengmeng brought Elvis and Barit to the outside of Nina's cave, a pungent smell assaulted their nostrils and made Gu Mengmeng frown in displeasure. Before she could say anything, 7 to 8 males jumped out of the cave and blocked in front of Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and said, "You think you can stop me?" The males looked at each other and one of them said, "This is Nina's territory. Without her permission, you can't enter." Gu Mengmeng looked as if she had heard the funniest joke in the world. She covered her mouth with one hand and laughed for a long time. She laughed until tears flowed out before she stopped. She glanced sideways and said, "I will enter. You can follow the rules of the beast world and treat us as invading enemies to attack. No one will stop you." The males were taken aback and took 2 steps back instead of advancing. They said, You are the messenger of the beast deity. How can you not follow the rules?" Gu Mengmeng shrugged and said, "You also know that I am the messenger of the beast deity. Then do you know that from now on, the rules of this world are set by me?" The male was so ridiculed that he was speechless. He felt that the little female in front of him was like a completely different person compared to when she taught everyone how to preserve meat before winter. Back then, she was as warm as the sun, but now, she was like the sun itself, emitting a heat that could destroy everything. Elvis did not stop and maintained his original speed as he continued walking in. A few males wanted to stop him, but Elvis gave a cold snort and emitted a strong pressure. Those males immediately laid on the ground and could not stand up. "Leave this to me," Barit said from behind Elvis. Elvis nodded, retracted his pressure and continued forward. When he reached the entrance of the cave, all of Nina's other partners had already come out. Gu Mengmeng counted, 27. "What about the other one? Are you accompanying Nina inside?" Gu Mengmeng asked with a smile. Nina's partners were stunned. They did not expect that they would be discovered so quickly. They exchanged glances with each other and decided to guard the cave entrance with all their might and wait for the 28th person to come and save Nina. However, Gu Mengmeng smiled and pulled Elvis's arm. She said, "Don't dirty your hands. Isn't Nina in the cave?" "Just nice, I can summon the flame demon and roast him into a beggar's chicken in the cave. It will save me a lot of trouble and also nourish my Sandy's body at the same time." Aside from the topic, today's update is over. I guess, someone is going to say that I'm stuck again. Susu expressed her helplessness. The 9,000-word update ends here. I didn't mean to be stuck. Chapter 343. Upon hearing Gu Mingming's words, Nina, who was originally hiding in the cave, immediately ran out. The males blocking the entrance all stood in front of her and said to Gu Mengmeng, "If you are here because of Sandy, then please punish me. After hurting a precious female, even if I have to go to the platform of the deity's punishment, I have no complaints. However, this has nothing to do with Nina. She has never hurt Sandy. Great messenger, please don't vent your anger on her on account that Nina is a precious perfect female. I wasn't the one who injured Sandy. It's unreasonable for you to want to burn me to death. Also, didn't you want me to participate in the beauty pageant? If you burn my delicate skin, Saint Nazir won't be able to recruit any brave males then." Nina hid behind her male's back and stretched out her neck to shout. Gu Meng Meng covered her mouth and laughed lightly. She said in disdain, "The words messenger of the beast deity is not more attractive than a wild chicken like you. You're just a meat bird, yet you think you're a peacock. You." Nina wanted to retort, but when she saw Elvis's ice-cold face, she could not help but shut up in fear. His gaze drifted into the distance, and he was anxious. Why wasn't that person back yet? Don't bother. I told Colin to keep an eye on Sandy. Right now, he's fuming with rage. Unless you send your level 2 beast master, you might have a chance to fight him. But... Gu Meng Meng glanced at Nina and smiled. With your level of selfishness, you definitely won't let your strongest partner leave your side. Otherwise, who would risk their lives to hold Elvis back so that you can fight for a chance to escape when I charge over here? Nina was stunned. Nina's heart turned cold. She could not understand how Gu Meng Meng guessed that she would think of using Sandy to threaten Gu Meng Meng. Actually, it was not that Gu Meng Meng had such incredible foresight, it was just that she had seen too many palace fights, so she still had to guard against such tricks. Moreover, her real purpose of keeping Colin was for them to cultivate their relationship. Gu Meng Meng was very surprised that Nina would use such an obvious tactic that was just short of setting up a sign saying, "I'm going to kidnap Sandy." She thought that, even though Nina was dumb, she would not be so extraordinarily dumb. It seemed that she had underestimated Nina's stupidity. Gu Meng Meng patted Elvis's shoulder and asked, "How long can Nina's partners drag you out? 1 or 2 seconds?" Elvis did not know how long 1 second and 2 seconds were. He just raised his head and kissed Gu Meng Meng's little hand gently. "Close your eyes." Gu Meng Meng did not understand, so she closed her eyes. Feeling a jolt in her body, she panicked and opened her eyes. The moment she opened her eyes, she was already in front of Nina. Nina's partner was lying 3 to 5 meters away. Dead. He should not be dead yet, but it was obvious that he could no longer move. Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng with one hand while his other hand hung down naturally. Fresh red blood dripped from his fingernails onto the ground, as if he was the god of death, emitting a dark and terrifying aura. But Gu Meng Meng was not surprised by this. She had seen Li's skills before and knew that the difference in levels in the beast world was absolutely irresistible. The 3rd level Leah only took 3 seconds to defeat Nina's partner, the 4th level Elvis. If it wasn't for Barit who was behind them, he would probably just need to release some pressure and they would all be lying on the ground, unable to get up. Out of topic. Baby's January will be over in a week's time. The tickets don't need to expire. Susu is so cute. Give me the tickets. Roll on the ground and beg for love. Chapter 344. Elvis reached out his hand and strangled Nina's neck, but Gu Meng Meng patted his shoulder, signaling him to stop. Elvis sighed and slowly put down his blood-stained hand. He looked down at Nina, who was lying on the ground and panting like a fish that had been beached, preventing her from doing anything to hurt Gu Meng Meng. Gu Meng Meng knew the reason why Elvis sighed. Although she could not understand, she clearly knew that Elvis and Leah were jealous that Barit had once gone to the platform of the deity's punishment for her to a certain extent. It was as if Barit had proven his feelings for Gu Meng Meng while they did not get such a chance. This logic was very strange, but now was not the time to explain. Gu Meng Meng patted Elvis's shoulder and said, "Put me down." Elvis frowned and said, "There's no hide on your feet, the ground is cold." Gu Meng Meng smiled and said, "It's all right, let me down." Elvis's gaze landed on the puddle of blood on the ground and he frowned. Gu Meng Meng saw it too, but she nodded at Elvis, indicating that it was all right. Elvis could not dissuade Gu Meng Meng, so he took 2 steps back and tore off the hide dress from one of Nina's partners. He tore it into 2 and carefully wrapped it around Gu Meng Meng's feet before letting her down. After Gu Meng Meng landed on the ground, she walked towards Nina with slow and pressuring steps. "You instigated Quentin to assassinate me, but it didn't work anyway, so I can ignore it. You found trouble with me from time to time, but it's harmless, so I can ignore it. you sold my information to the people of Sauder, but it can't be kept a secret for long, so I can ignore it. You claimed to be the most beautiful female in the tribe and pestered my man, but my man did not like you, so I can ignore it. You even threatened to kill my son, but you don't have the ability to do so, so I can ignore it. But, you hurt my best friend, I can't let you off. When Gu Mengmeng finished her sentence, one of her feet had already stepped on Nina's shoulder. Leaning forward, he stepped on her firmly on the ground. I am the female of Saint Nazir. Our tribe has its rules. People of Saint Nazir cannot kill people of Saint Nazir. Nina had never been so afraid. It was not the first time Gu Mengmeng had hit her, but she had never seen such an obvious murderous intent in her eyes. That small body seemed to have the power to rule the world. Only when she looked up to him did she truly understand what it meant to be the messenger of the beast deity. You are from Saint Nazir, ha. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and said in a low voice, but I am a deity. Gu Mengmeng stepped on Nina's shoulder with one foot and stepped on Nina's face with the other, forcing the side of Nina's face to stick to the ground. Her neck was forced to be exposed. Gu Mengmeng bent her knees and bent into a bow stance. She grabbed Nina's throat with one hand and strangled it fiercely. She sneered, your neck is really too thick. Even if I use both my hands, I can't wrap my arms around it. So, let's make it simpler, how about that? Nina instantly suffocated. Her face turned red, and she couldn't make a sound. She didn't understand why Gu Mengmeng, who looked so weak, was closer to death when she was strangling her than when Elvis was strangling her neck with his big hands. Fear caused her eyes to widen and her face to look ferocious and terrifying. She used both her hands to grab around, trying to pull Gu Mengmeng down from her body. But with just one flop, before she could even touch Gu Mengmeng's clothes, both her hands were pinned to the ground on both sides of her body. Her wrists were broken and they were embedded into the depression in the ground in a weird position. Aside from the topic, are you nervous? Is it exciting? Where's the ticket? If I don't have the ticket, I will have to say, listen to the next episode. I lied to you 5 minutes later, next update. Chapter 345. Gu Mengmeng raised her head and met Li's smiling eyes. He stretched out a clean hand towards Gu Mengmeng like a gentleman, waiting for Gu Mengmeng to pass her little hand to him. He placed the blood-stained hand behind his back and said gently, she is not worthy of dirtying your hand. Leave it to me, all right. Gu Mengmeng shook her head and looked at Leah and then at Elvis, saying, me killing her is the oracle, the mandate of the heavens. If you guys do it, you will be breaking the rules of the beast world and will have to go to the platform of the deity's punishment. Li's smile did not diminish and he said, your oracle is also the oracle and also the mandate of the heavens. Gu Mengmeng frowned but did not know what to say. You are abusing your authority, you are abusing your authority to take revenge. I am a complete female, the beloved of the beast deity, if you treat me like this, you will be punished by the beast deity. Nina seemed to be extremely afraid and started shouting incoherently. But she did not know that such shouting would only make her die faster. Gu Mengmeng knocked on Nina's Adam's apple with her knife hand and Nina instantly started coughing violently. Breathing became a problem, not to mention talking. Gu Mengmeng squatted down and looked at her coldly, saying, don't you know? The beast deity is the father beast, I am abusing my authority and taking revenge on him. These are all taught by him. Obviously, Gu Mengmeng was spouting nonsense. However, Nina believed him, Mengmeng. Leah used his clean hand to carry Gu Mengmeng up gently and stared into her eyes, saying, can't you let me be the first person to carry out the execution according to the oracle? Gu Mengmeng looked into Li's eyes and it was as if she could see an indescribable pain and struggle in those eyes. The only outlet to vent his anger was himself. Gu Mengmeng recalled what Elvis had told her about Li's past. He came from Sauter, which was the tribe of the previous messenger of the beast deity. He was the ninth highness who was banished for unknown reasons. His heart was filled with hatred, but he did not mention a word about his past. If the oracle of the messenger of the beast deity could free him, then why was she still hesitating? Gu Mengmeng slowly stood up and took a step back, leaning back into Elvis's arms. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng up steadily and placed her on his shoulders. Gu Mengmeng lowered her head slightly and stared into Li's eyes. She reached out a hand and placed it on his forehead. As the messenger of the beast deity, I bestow upon you the right to execute and punish Nina. Leah knelt down on one knee and used his clean hand to hold up Gu Mengmeng's little foot. He brought it to his lips and kissed it gently, while his other blood-stained hand was placed on his chest, painting a dark red cinnabar on that white chest. Elvis did not let Gu Mengmeng see how Leah carried out his punishment, because she should not have to experience those unpleasant scenes. Elvis and Leah exchanged glances before leaving with Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng knew that Elvis and Leah were not willing to let her see their brutal and tyrannical side, and she also did not have any desire for violence. From the bottom of her heart, she did not really want to kill Nina herself, even though she was just a wild chicken and could transform into a human form. If she really saw her die under her orders, Gu Mengmeng would still feel guilty. So when Elvis brought her away, Gu Mengmeng did not protest and did not turn back. She only needed to wait. Wait for Leah to come back and tell her what the oracle meant to him, and why his gaze had such a complicated and heavy foundation. Aside from the topic, I can tell you very responsibly that Nina received her bento box. I did not describe the way she died because she was so lowly that she was not worthy of my words. Babes who still feel that your anger has not been vented, please use your imagination and imagine the various scenes of Leah torturing and killing Nina. There are only things that you can't imagine, but there is nothing that Leah cannot do. Chapter 346. When the sky turned fiery red and the moon slowly climbed up the mountain peak while the sun was still longing for the beautiful scenery of the world, Leah returned to Elvis's cave with the afterglow of the setting sun on him. He walked in front of Gu Mengmeng with one knee on the ground and placed his right hand in front of his chest. He lowered his head and said, reporting to Great Messenger, Nina's punishment has been completed. Gu Mengmeng pulled Leah and said, Leah, are you willing to tell me your story now? Leah raised his head and looked at Gu Mengmeng while maintaining his kneeling position. He did not return to his senses for a long time. Leah. Gu Mengmeng called his name again, but Leah suddenly smiled. He smiled in a flirtatious manner and said, sure, as long as you mate with me. I will tell you all my stories. Gu Mengmeng suddenly felt her heart ache. No matter if Leah said coldly, none of your business, or talked about a tragic life story sorrowfully, Gu Mengmeng was already mentally prepared for it. But, Gu Mengmeng suddenly wanted to know why Leah, who was filled with hatred, would always smile so elegantly. That smile, was it just a camouflage? He tried his best to hide his emotions and used such a cynical attitude to face the pain of the past. Was it because, if he did not do so, he would not be able to bear it? Gu Mengmeng lowered her head. She was asking herself, if she forced Leah to tell that story, would she be able to bear the consequences? Because of her curiosity, she tore open Lee's fatal wound. So what if she saw it? What was she going to use to soothe it? What was she going to use to heal it? Sighing, Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, I won't force you if you don't want to say it. But if one day, you want to confide in me, I will always be here. Leo was still smiling. He swung his big furry tail and said, looks like I am not completely unloved as a beast pet. Gu Mengmeng smiled cooperatively. She did not reply or refute. Beast pet, huh? Gu Mengmeng smiled and said. She would just treat it as a Samoyed being raised at home. One day, when Lee's inner demons were resolved, he would naturally go to search for that vast world. By then, as the messenger of the beast deity, she would not be able to keep him. With Lee's intelligence, it was too easy for him to get rid of his pet beast. At most, he could just give him a new identity like in the movies. Wasn't he the one in power now? It was still possible for him to create a new identity for Leah. However, he could only try to bluff them with his mouth. Leah stood up and took a strand of hair from each side of his ear and tied it behind his head. As he did so, he said, "Oh, right. When I came back from Sandy's place, Colin asked me to ask you, what kind of mail is that?" Gu Meng Meng was taken aback for a moment before she smiled knowingly. That blockhead has been enlightened. Leah considered for a moment before nodding his head. Sandy is in a lot of pain. She won't say anything other than pain. Colin's heart ached so much that he said he wanted to stay by Sandy's side forever to protect her. But when he confessed to Sandy, Sandy only cried out in pain with red eyes. She cried especially miserably. Gu Meng Meng face-bombed. She thought to herself, Sandy, you and Colin are really a pair of enemies. Shaking her head helplessly, Gu Meng Meng smiled bitterly. How do you feel about Sandy's injury? Can she participate in tonight's ceremony? Leah nodded. It should be difficult for her to walk on her own. But if you want her to participate, I can ask a few males to carry her over. Aside from the topic, the disgusting fellow is gone. Next, we will be handing out candy. Say, what kind of CP do you think Sandy and Colin should be called? How about CP for disco? Ha, such an ancient name. Chapter 347. Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, all right, find a few reliable ones and don't tear Sandy's wound open. Leah nodded and asked again, for tonight's campfire party, is it really all right to do as you say? Gu Meng Meng smiled slyly and said, I am the messenger of the beast deity. When it comes to playing with fire, who could be better at it than me? Leah also smiled and nodded in agreement. He then said, then I will go and arrange it. Gu Meng Meng said, sigh, call Colin back and tell him that I want to tell him what kind of that kind of male is. Leah agreed and said, all right. After Leah left, Gu Meng Meng pulled Elvis back to the cave and found 2 leopard skins for Elvis to make a new set of clothes for her. Elvis didn't ask much and just did whatever Gu Meng Meng said. When Colin came back, Gu Meng Meng was already standing in front of everyone in the cool leopard print outfit. Colin looked at Gu Meng Meng and twitched his lips without saying a word. Gu Meng Meng said, just say what you want to say. Colin pointed at Gu Meng Meng's clothes and said, the beast skin you are wearing is so weird. Gu Meng Meng scared and said, what do you know, this is called fashion. Colin shrugged his shoulders. He didn't know fashion, he only knew food. Gu Meng Meng didn't pursue the matter and just hooked her finger to beckon Colin to come closer. Then, she whispered into his ear, later on, you will be like this, then, mm. Do you understand? Colin blinked his eyes and looked at Gu Meng Meng with a face full of question marks. Gu Meng Meng slapped his chest harshly and said, do you want to mate with Sandy? Colin nodded seriously and said, yes. Gu Meng Meng said, then do as I say and don't talk nonsense. Colin nodded seriously again and said, all right. That night was the first time Saint Nazir hosted a real campfire party. There was no killing between members of the same tribe and no staining of the mahogany tower with fresh blood. There was only the warm glow of the fire and the alluring aroma of the large amount of food. Sandy was arranged to be in the position closest to Gu Meng Meng, even though Gu Meng Meng had yet to appear. Sandy could only lie there in a daze, staring at the flames like a bear. Bode brought the roasted meat to Sandy's mouth. She didn't even open her mouth to take it. She just shook her head absent-mindedly and continued to stare blankly. Suddenly, a loud thud startled everyone. Bode's first reaction was to protect Sandy as he looked around cautiously. Dong! Dong dong! Another two strong and powerful voices rang out. These voices were very unfamiliar, but they made one's blood boil. Following the direction of the sound, two people walked out slowly from behind the fire. One of them was a 2-meter-tall burly man carrying a strange thing in his arms, while the petite figure walking in front of him was Gu Meng Meng. Gu Meng Meng was wearing a leopard print horizontal bra. In order to cover her overly feminine 36D breasts, she had specially designed the bra to be a bandage style, making it look like a little war prince. She gave up on wearing a skirt for her lower body and instead wore a pair of shorts that reached the middle of her thighs and knees, lengthening Gu Mengmeng's legs. Other than the bra and shorts, Gu Mengmeng's sleeveless cloak was the most eye-catching. It made a loud noise in the wind, and under the illumination of the fire, she looked like a deity from another world, carrying a mission, hope and a fatal temptation that made one unable to shift their eyes away. Aside from the topic, yes, Gu Meng Meng was prepared to flirt with a mistress in front of her husband. When Gu Meng Meng met Sandy, she felt a hormonal change. Was it an illusion? Chapter 348. Colin placed the thing in his arms according to Gu Mengmeng's instructions. Everyone did not know what it was, but upon closer inspection, it seemed to be a cross-section of a tree trunk, half the height of a human, with a layer of what looked like deerskin on top. Gu Meng Meng had 2 wooden sticks in her hands. One end of the wooden stick was the size of a fist, wrapped in animal skin. Gu Meng Meng flipped herself onto that strange thing, then handed the 2 wooden sticks in her hands to Colin. She stood on the piece of wood wrapped in animal skin, raised her feet high, and jumped, dong. A loud sound, like the roar of thunder. The scene was silent, and everyone's gaze naturally gathered on Gu Meng Meng. She lifted her cloak with one hand, and the cloak fluttered in the wind amidst the firelight. She lifted her right foot, and when it landed again, another loud sound was heard. If you don't like to listen to my song, please close your ears. Next, I'm going to start a massacre and pierce through your eardrums. Gu Meng Meng raised her hand, and Colin used the 2 wooden sticks to knock on the deerskin. The opening of the outliers was full of vigor, and everyone's attention was on Gu Meng Meng, as if they were so shocked that they could not move. Her body did not emit any so-called pressure of a powerhouse, but it made everyone forget to even breathe. I'm fearless, let all my opponents have a taste of it. Follow me, follow me, follow me, and scream as loud as I can. After Gu Meng Meng finished singing this sentence, Colin transformed into a bear, roaring at the sky. Although the rhythm was not quite right, the effect was extremely good, adding an authentic wild element to the song, making it seem even wilder and more unruly. As orcs did not have any concept of rhythm, Gu Meng Meng originally tried to teach Colin to sing with her, but he really could not control any tone other than roaring. Hence, Gu Meng Meng could only settle for the next best thing. She agreed on a few actions with Colin, and as long as Gu Meng Meng performed this action, he would use the wooden stick to knock on the deerskin. With this kind of cooperation, it was considered a tacit understanding. When Gu Meng Meng finished singing the last sentence with all her might, the sound of tearing. Then, she took a wooden stick from Colin's hand, jumped up high and hit the deerskin heavily. After a deafening sound, Gu Meng Meng panted heavily and sat sideways at her original spot. She stepped on the edge of the deerskin with one knee bent and the other leg hanging down casually. One of his hands was placed on his bent knee, while the other was holding a wooden stick, which he carelessly tapped on the center of the deerskin, making a slow but clear sound. Colin followed Gu Meng Meng's instructions and carried the weird thing that could make a sound along with Gu Meng Meng, before walking to Sandy, who was lying on the ground. Gu Meng Meng winked at Sandy with her single eye and smiled rather mischievously. Taking a deep breath, he slowly began to sing, "You are my queen, ruling my planet." Sandy's dark and bright eyes stared at Gu Meng Meng without blinking. From her smile and gaze, Sandy clearly knew that this song was for her. Gu Meng Meng stood up and knelt on the ground with one knee. She placed her right hand on her left chest, just like an ancient European knight, exuding a strong and seductive aura of hormones, raise my hand and place it on my chest, swearing my loyalty to you. Gu Mengmeng sang, danced and flirted at the same time. Not only Sandy, even the males at the side were dumbfounded. Their faces were red and their hearts were racing. They felt as if their eyes were filled with blood. They really wanted to step forward and say, "Let go of that bear, come at me if you dare." Digression: the first song was Su Guiyang's version of Aliens, and the second was Luo Zhixiang's My Queen. I will share these two songs in the QQ group for everyone to listen to if you are interested. Besides. Chapter 349. When she sang the last line, "My dear Queen, the night is waiting. Please follow me step by step to the throne of love." At the same time, Colin knelt down on one knee in front of Sandy, just like how Gu Mengmeng did at the beginning, like a Roman warrior swearing his loyalty. He stared at Sandy seriously and sincerely. "I, Colin, am willing to pledge my loyalty to you, to protect you in the name of a knight, for a lifetime, for a lifetime." Sandy had yet to return to her senses from Gu Mengmeng's teasing. Her expression was a little dazed and she did not know what was going on. She just felt that Gu Mengmeng was exceptionally attractive today. Even Colin seemed to be more charming than usual. Gu Mengmeng hugged Sandy's little head and whispered into her ear, "Nod." Sandy still did not understand what was going on, so she nodded according to Gu Mengmeng's words. Then, she saw Colin suddenly stand up, raising both his hands up high and roaring in excitement. Sandy was first shocked, but soon after, she understood what was going on. Her face heated up and she turned to look at Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng smiled and patted her little head, saying, "This man is yours." Sandy's face turned even redder, her furry paws on Gu Mengmeng's arm not letting her go. But Gu Mengmeng smiled and kissed Sandy's head, saying, "Now, I'm going back to find my man." With that, she patted Sandy's little hand, retracted her arm and stood up. Passing by Colin, Gu Mengmeng punched his chest, saying generously, "My Sandy is still injured, you, be gentler." "I know." Gu Mengmeng shook her head, looking at Colin's honest and serious look, thinking to herself that he was indeed handsome for no more than 3 seconds. Luckily, she had taught him to memorize that confession beforehand, or else when Sandy recalled Colin's proposal in the future, she would probably only remember, "Sandy, I love you." Gu Mengmeng did not even manage to jump twice before she was lifted into the air. With both feet off the ground, she instinctively wrapped her arms around that person's neck. Tilting her head, she indeed met with that pair of familiar and deep eyes. Smiling sweetly, Gu Mengmeng asked, "Hubby, do I sing well?" Elvis kissed away the beads of sweat on Gu Mengmeng's forehead. His lips curved upwards and his eyes were filled with deep affection. His tone was sour. "What position do I have in your heart?" Why do you ask?" Gu Mengmeng asked, finding it funny. "How long have you neglected me because of those 4 wolf pups?" Elvis inched closer to Gu Mengmeng's ear and wanted to bite her in anger, but in the end, he just sucked on her earlobe lightly. Stop fooling around, it's ticklish." Gu Mengmeng chuckled as she begged for mercy. She snuggled into Elvis's arms and said, "There's a famous person from where I came from who once said, the so-called father-daughter relationship only means that your fate with him is to watch his back view disappear into the distance in this lifetime. You stand at the end of the path and watch him disappear at the corner of the path. He uses his back view to silently tell you, don't chase, don't chase. Children will eventually grow up and have their own families. One day, they will leave us and we will also grow old one day. How can we not cherish each other while we still have each other now? Don't you agree?" "Yeah." He then narrowed his eyes and said, "But today, because of Sandy, you left the 4 of them in the cave for an entire afternoon. Now, the sky is already dark." Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis and said, "But today, for Sandy, you left the four of them in the cave for an entire afternoon. Aside from the topic, I'm so busy today. Sandy and Colin's wedding, I'm giving out wedding sweets in the VIP group. Chapter 350. Gu Meng Meng felt a little guilty and shrunk her neck, saying, "Didn't you say that our cave is very safe and the children will be fine at home?" Elvis smiled. "I said, the wolf cubs are more important than me. Sandy is more important than the wolf cubs. What about me? In your heart, how many people are more important than me?" Gu Meng Meng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck and kissed his face hard, saying, "Nonsense, Sandy is important, the babies are important, but you are the most important. In my heart, there is no one more important than you, not a single one." Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng and sat by the side of the burning wooden pagoda. His pale blue eyes looked an ambiguous orange because of the firelight. He raised his eyebrows and played with Gu Meng Meng's fingers, saying, "Nina seduced me in front of you, but not only were you not angry at that time, it seemed like you even wanted to make space for her." Gu Meng Meng recalled that something like that happened when she first arrived at the tribe, but Nina came looking like she was the official in charge of catching an adulterer. Who the hell knew if there was something going on between the two of them? If they didn't make space, would they have to buy tickets to watch? Did they? Why don't I remember? Yes. Elvis answered with certainty, then sighed, "But, once Nina bullied Sandy, you immediately rushed up to stand up for her. In order to help Sandy, you even threw yourself to the ground and acted pitiful." Gu Meng Meng's mouth twitched, saying, "It's all in the past, why are you still holding a grudge? Don't bring up the past. As a man, a wolf must be more broad-minded. It's a waste of brain cells to keep remembering small things in the past, isn't it? Right?" Elvis nodded as a form of agreement, then said, "Let's not talk about the past, let's talk about the present." Gu Meng Meng smiled apologetically, saying, "Yes, let's talk about the present. Life is so beautiful now. Look, hugging a soft and fragrant body. It's the glory of a wolf's life, isn't it?" Elvis laughed coldly, saying, "Sandy has 2 songs, one of which you have sung twice. But I only have one, and I've only heard it once." Gu Meng Meng face-bombed. She continued, "Baidu Bai Qi, question. Hubby is easily jealous, and it's 1,000-year-old vinegar. How should I deal with it? Can I add some soy sauce to balance it? It's urgent, I'm waiting online." Elvis continued to speak slowly in a low voice. "Moreover, you are especially gentle toward Sandy. She will hug you whenever she wants to, but, the moment I touch you, you will hide from me." Gu Meng Meng coughed twice, choking on her own saliva. She really wanted to ask Elvis, "Doesn't your conscience hurt saying such things? When Sandy hugged her, it was really just a hug. Have you ever been obedient when you were hugging her? Think about how your 4 sons came to be. If she didn't hide, she would die on the bed. You just sang. She's your queen. You want to serve her and protect her happiness." Elvis's face darkened even more. He was clearly near the fire, but he was so gloomy that ink could drip from his face. Gu Meng Meng smiled awkwardly and wrapped her arms around Elvis's waist, saying, "Who said I don't want you to hug me? Aren't you hugging me now? Come, hug me all the time, all right?" The corners of Elvis's lips moved slightly. He raised his chin and tightened his arms, encircling Gu Meng Meng. He took a deep breath and looked at Sandy, just short of writing the words, "I won," on his face. Aside from the topic, Gu Meng Meng, question, hubby is easily jealous and always fights with his best friend and son, but he keeps giving the green light to his ex-boyfriend. What should I do? It's quite urgent. Netizen question, I feel that your hubby giving the green light to your ex-boyfriend might be cheating on you. Chapter 351. Saint Nazaire was in a frenzy for that night's revelry. Other than Gu Meng Meng, Colin was the most popular person. Although he only stood behind Gu Meng Meng and did some manual labor, his only line was the one where he proposed to Sandy, but it still caused a sensation. Deep in the night, Ian leaned against a tree and looked down at the revelry with an indifferent expression. Leah sat beside him and handed him a piece of roasted meat. "Do you mind if I don't let you show yourselves?" Ian didn't take the food from Leah. Instead, he fixed his gaze on the bashful figure in the leader's arms. That tiny figure had attracted everyone's attention the moment she appeared. It was as if she had a magical power that no one could resist. Is she really the messenger of the beast deity? Ian seemed to be doubtful and muttering to himself. Leah smiled. The food that allowed your tribesmen to survive the cold winter is still not enough to prove her identity. Ian didn't say anything. Why should he reply? Food, singing and fire. Retracting his gaze, Ian glanced sideways at Leah. This is the reason why you were so confident back then. Leah nodded. The birds are the ones who yearn for the beast deity the most, isn't it? The arrival of the messenger means that all the birds in the beast world will flock to her. Once her identity is known, would there be anyone who would come to seek shelter? Ian nodded. Leah was right. The tribes that soared in the sky yearned to be close to the beast deity the most. Since that's the case, why did you choose us? After all, there are only 32 of us left in our tribe. Leah smiled. His gaze landed on the little figure who was playing around in Elvis's arms. She's a little willful and is the most unstable factor in all my plans. In order to deal with her sudden whims, I need to have more bargaining chips in my hands. Only then can I ensure that nothing goes wrong and let her be willful to her heart's content. Ian was taken aback for a moment. Then, he laughed. So the Snow Fox tribe also has affections. I thought you guys are different from normal orcs and would not change because of females. Snow Fox tribe. Leah savored this form of address and smiled faintly. This tale is probably the only useful thing left to me by this tribe. With that, Leah did not bother about Ian anymore. He transformed into a fox and started running in the dark. His goal was clear and distinct. Ian stood on the spot, holding the roasted meat left behind by Leah in his hands. He watched as the white figure dashed through the night sky to the side of the bonfire and shamelessly waved his large tail in front of the little female to beg for her affection. His lips curled upwards as he said, "Messenger of the beast deity." Gu Meng Meng. 3 days later, Gu Meng Meng packed her luggage and prepared to leave the beauty pageant. She had wanted to bring Sandy along to play, but Sandy's injuries had not fully recovered. Moreover, she was still a newlywed with Colin. Gu Meng Meng was too embarrassed to separate her. She just smiled and poked at the black bear mark on Sandy's chest. She reminded her to be careful and not to make too big of a move to tear open her wounds again. If Leah was not around, no one would be able to help her. Sandy blushed and twisted her body in Gu Meng Meng's arms for a long time. In the end, Colin came and carried Sandy up. He said sternly, "Gu Meng Meng has something to do. Don't pester her and waste her time." Then, he pulled Sandy away from Gu Meng Meng's side. Gu Meng Meng looked at Sandy, who was clearly looking at her longingly but still had her arms wrapped around Colin's neck obediently. She could not help but give Colin a thumbs up. "Not bad, Colin. You're a real man." Digression. Come, send out a notice. Tomorrow morning, send out breakfast. Meat stew. How to eat meat, readers. 4927799273. After entering the group, find the corresponding administrator to provide a screenshot of the fan points for verification. Chapter 352. According to tradition, other than the partners of Sandy and Maya, the tribesmen of Saint Nazir should follow the females who were participating in the beauty pageant. Firstly, it was to protect the prettiest female in the tribe. Secondly, if they met someone they fancied in the beauty pageant, they could just follow them. But this time, the situation was a little special. None of the males who followed them wanted to change tribes. Instead, they were all here to protect Gu Mengmeng with their lives. Originally, there were only 130 males in the tribe. Because of Nina, they lost over 40 males in one go. Although they did not have the mating mark and did not need to die even if Nina died, but no matter what kind of female Nina was, she was still the love of their lives. After Nina died, they sealed Nina's cave and buried all of them alive in the cave. Out of the remaining 80 over people, excluding Sandy's 9 partners and Maya's 15 partners, they could only bring out 60 over people. Gu Mengmeng also left Oakley and Barit in the tribe. One was smart and the other was strong. They could be considered as the imitation versions of Elvis and Leah. With the 2 of them in the tribe, together with the males from Sandy and Maya's families, there should be no problem in looking after the house. Gu Mengmeng originally wanted to bring all 4 of her sons along. But Elvis and Leah told her that the journey was long and bumpy. Other than meeting normal wild beasts, they might also meet stray beasts. If they met with danger, they would only protect Gu Mengmeng. If Gu Mengmeng wanted to bring the 4 little ones along, and if an accident happened, this was definitely a blatant threat. Gu Mengmeng clenched her teeth. In the end, she did not dare to bring her 4 sons along. So, she handed the 4 little ones over to their future mother-in-law, Sandy, to help take care of them. She especially instructed Sandy not to act out any restricted scenes in front of her children. If she were to lead her sons astray, she would break off all ties with them. After a day's journey, although Gu Mengmeng was carried or hunched by Elvis like an empress dowager and did not get off the ground at all, she was still extremely tired. Nestled in Elvis's arms, Gu Mengmeng frowned and said, "Sigh, what kind of lousy beauty pageant is this? Can't I not go? Why is there no internet in this broken place? Why don't we just open a live broadcast and sing and dance at home? Just send out the location and we can choose whoever we want. That's it. I'm so tired." Elvis also felt sorry for Gu Mengmeng. In the past, when he sent Nina to the beauty pageant, she started complaining the moment they left the tribe. Unlike Gu Mengmeng, who only grumbled in his arms before falling asleep after walking for an entire day. "Tomorrow, we'll walk slower. If you're tired, you can tell me anytime, we can rest anytime." Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's little head and said gently, "Sleep, I'll guard you." "Yeah." Gu Mengmeng found a comfortable spot in Elvis's arms and slowly fell asleep. Her thick eyelashes fluttered once in a while, and under the gentle moonlight, she looked like a fairy. Elvis stared at Gu Mengmeng's sleeping face. He did not even know how gentle he looked. He lightly caressed her little face with his hand and the delicate touch on his fingertips made Elvis a little restless. Gu Mengmeng moaned and shook her head, as if she was unhappy that someone had disturbed her sleep. Just this small action caused the fragrance on her body to spread out in waves, making him even more mesmerized. Elvis could not help but recall the day they mated. She also fell asleep like this, in his arms, defenseless. That day, she had tormented him to the point of no return. Although he finally got what he wanted, but during the time she was asleep, thinking about this, Elvis's body started to heat up, as if a ball of fire was burning uncontrollably in his body. It started from his chest and slowly moved downwards, stopping at his lower abdomen. Aside from the topic, there are 3,215 words of extra material, which was shared in the VIP group. Babies who have already entered the V group, please take it yourself. Babies who have not entered the VIP group, please join the reader group, 4927799273 to verify the fan value. Babies who have a fan value of 800 can be added into the VIP group by the administrator. Chapter 353. When Gu Mengmeng finally woke up from her dream, she realized that she was lying on Elvis's back and moving forward in the forest. The landform here was completely different from the place she had fallen asleep at. Rubbing her eyes, she sat up and asked, "How long did I sleep for?" Leah handed over a fruit that looked fresh and especially tempting. Gu Meng Meng took a bite and it was so sweet that she felt like she was surrounded by happiness. Leo looked at Gu Mingming's satisfied look and his gaze became gentle. He patted her head and said, "You have slept for a day and a half. How are you? Do you feel uncomfortable anywhere?" Gu Meng Meng shook her head blankly and instantly understood what Leo was saying. Her face turned red and the fruit that she had just swallowed got stuck in her throat, causing her to choke and cough. Leah carried Gu Meng Meng up and used his knee to push against her stomach. He then patted her back and Gu Meng Meng forcefully coughed out the fruit stuck in her throat. Her face was already extremely red. Elvis transformed into human form and took Gu Meng Meng from Li's arms. He pried open her mouth and looked at her throat carefully. He sighed and said, "Be more careful next time and don't choke again, understand?" Gu Meng Meng nodded obediently and passed the fruit to Elvis. "Try it, it's really delicious." Elvis shook his head lightly and said, "This is for females to eat. It can alleviate the discomfort after mating." Gu Meng Meng was instantly petrified. The fruit in her hand no longer looked tempting. Instead, it was like a bomb that had started its countdown. She wanted to throw it, but was afraid that it would explode the moment it touched the ground. "It's all right. Anyway, everyone knows that you have mated for a day and 2 nights, so you don't have to be shy. Just eat it." Leah smiled as he pushed the fruit to Gu Mingming's mouth. His smile was especially gentle, but there was an obvious cold glint in his eyes. "I heard that your throat was hoarse from all the yelling that night. Eat some fruits with sufficient moisture to nourish your throat. Damn it, it shouldn't be a mistake to do OOXX with her own husband, right?" Why did she feel like she was being dragged to be paraded on the streets after having an affair? Gu Meng Meng turned her head and buried her face back into Elvis's chest, grumbling softly, "I told you we can't do it outside, look at you, so annoying." Elvis straightened his body and hooked Gu Mingming's chin with his finger. His brows unknowingly touched together and he looked at Gu Meng Meng with a hurt expression. "Did I make you feel embarrassed?" Gu Meng Meng was taken aback. She shook her head and said, "What nonsense are you saying? I'm just... how can I let others know about this kind of thing? How embarrassing." Elvis stared straight at Gu Meng Meng, his eyes filled with tenderness. His voice was low, as if he was a little sad, as he asked, "On the day we mated, you said you wanted to announce our relationship to the world. Was it all a lie?" Gu Meng Meng really regretted not letting the fruit choke her to death. Elvis seemed to lack a sense of security in certain aspects. It was as if he always felt that Gu Meng Meng would abandon him any time. Gu Meng Meng did not know where Elvis's feeling came from, but she had experienced this kind of uneasiness before. Chapter 354. Elvis then smiled and kissed Gu Mingming's forehead gently. "You slept for a day and a half and did not eat anything. Are you hungry?" Gu Meng Meng rubbed her tummy and nodded with a smile. Elvis said, "Stay here and wait for me. I'll go hunting." Gu Meng Meng held onto Elvis's arm, unwilling to let go. She looked at the 60 tribesmen guarding at the side and said, "Let them go. Can't you stay here and accompany me?" Elvis gently stroked the stray hair beside Gu Mingming's ear and said, "I have to prepare your food myself. Because I don't want to give others the chance to fawn over you." Gu Meng Meng bashfully punched Elvis's chest and said with a red face, "Annoying." Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's lips and said, "Wait for me. I'll be back soon. If you meet with any danger, just hit our mating mark hard and I'll rush back." Gu Meng Meng nodded obediently and said, "Then take care of your safety." Elvis smiled and agreed. Then, he whistled and a few hunting experts followed Elvis into the forest. Leah arranged for people to gather materials to start a fire and draw water to prepare for roasting meat. He swayed his furry big tail and leaned towards Gu Mang Mang. He supported his chin with his hand and looked at Gu Mang Mang from the corner of his eye. Gu Mang Mang remained silent for a while and turned to look at Leah. She said, "Thank you, for that night." Leah raised his brow and asked, "Which night?" Gu Mang Mang blushed and lowered her head. She fiddled with her fingers and said, "You used the fox seductive fragrance on me, right?" Leah was a little shocked but only for a moment. He did not deny it and only said, "You found out." Gu Mang Mang nodded and said, "Thank you for helping me reduce the pain. But I don't need it in the future." "Why?" Leah was puzzled and asked, "The fox seductive fragrance only made the mating process between you and Elvis smoother. Other than adding some interest, it won't affect you much. Instead, it will make you suffer less." "Why not?" Gu Mang Mang smiled shyly. She thought for a while before replying, "No matter how painful or sweet the process was, it is still a precious memory between us as husband and wife. The fox seductive fragrance makes me lose control of my mind, as if someone is controlling my body to hug Elvis. This feeling makes me very uncomfortable." Lee's smile froze for a moment before he nodded. "I was being a busybody. I'm sorry." Gu Mang Mang shook her head and smiled. "I don't mean to blame you. It's quite refreshing to do it once in a while." However, the novelty between husband and wife was just a temporary adjustment. True feelings for each other were the long-term solution. "So, please don't use the fox seductive fragrance on me anymore, okay?" Leah pursed his lips and smiled faintly. "That won't do. Even if I don't want to use it when we mate in the future, I won't be able to control it." Gu Mang Mang knew that Leah had purposely said that to hide his disappointment. He should have already understood that between her and Elvis, there was no place for him. Not exposing him was Gu Mang Mang's last kindness to Leah. Standing up, Gu Mang Mang sat beside the fire. Her gaze drifted towards the direction where Elvis had disappeared to. She cupped her chin and waited for the silhouette of the black wolf to return. Elvis and the rest did not leave for long. It was just that when they returned, there was an uninvited guest in their group. When Gu Mang Mang stood up to welcome them, she saw half a head peeking out from behind Elvis, looking at her timidly. Moreover, there was an eyesore hand clutching tightly onto the edge of Elvis's beast-skin dress. Aside from the topic, has Meaty finished watching? If you have, remember to vote for your ticket. Without the ticket, the next meal of Meaty would be so far away. No, this is not a threat, this is, not a friendly negotiation. Chapter 355. Gu Mang Mang frowned, but before she could say anything, she heard Elvis glare at the person who was grabbing her hide dress coldly and said, "I warned you before, don't touch me." I'm sorry. I'm just too scared." That person was scared out of her wits by Elvis. She hurriedly let go of her hand and took a step back, looking like she was about to cry. It was a pity that Elvis did not even look at her. Elvis heaved a heavy sigh, his face full of displeasure. Looking at his beast-skin dress that had been scratched, he was in a terrible mood. Gu Mang Mang finally saw her full appearance after the female took a step back. Her dark green hair was draped over her shoulders and she was wearing a simple hide on her upper body. It looked like it was torn and looked like it was going to fall at any moment, unable to cover her impressive fullness. Her lower body, snake. Gu Mang Mang was calculating in her heart, this pose, should she kneel down and worship 3 times, offer a joss stick and say, "Goddess Nuwa," or should she stand on a rock with a gourd on her head and shout, "Vixen, return my grandfather." Although the bullet screen mode had already been activated in her heart, Gu Mang Mang did not show any expression on her face. She pulled Elvis's pants in front of her and tidied up the hide that was slightly crooked because of the stranger's gentle pull. Her eyes were focused on her hands and she asked in a neutral tone, "Hubby, who is she?" Elvis sharply felt Gu Mingming's anger. Although he did not know why, he knew that Gu Mengmeng was definitely angry. Could it be that Gu Mengmeng was hungry after being out for too long? Yeah, that must be it. She would not be in a good mood once she was hungry. Thinking about this, Elvis hurriedly explained, "Are you hungry?" "Don't worry, I have hunted a lot of prey and I have already asked Darch to handle it. You can eat it soon." This was a rule that Elvis and Leah had personally set for Gu Mengmeng. All prey was not allowed to be brought back whole. After the male hunted the prey, he had to first use his claws to cut off the better meat and store it in his hide bag. Then, he would finish off the meatless and hard-to-chew parts in the wild. After returning, he must first clean the food prepared for the female before bringing it back. He was not allowed to deal with the prey in front of the female, nor was he allowed to let the female know what the prey of the day was. However, the males would remember the meat that the female said was delicious and would find more for them in the future. Unfortunately, Elvis had misunderstood the main point. Gu Mingming's hand was still on Elvis's pants, but she looked up and stared at Elvis's face, asking, "Let me ask you, who is she?" Elvis looked back blankly at the terrified female standing not far away and said, "I picked her up on the road." Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and said, "Tribe leader is really good at picking. First, you picked me, then you picked her. TSK, females aren't that valuable in the beast world, yet you've already picked two of them so casually." Elvis was stunned for a long while before he suddenly laughed and pulled her into his arms. He asked excitedly, "Xiao Meng, are you jealous?" "You're jealous, aren't you?" "You're jealous." Gu Mengmeng felt as if someone had stepped on her tail and she exploded, "Eat your head." "I'm not." Elvis stiffened and sighed in disappointment. Every cell in his body was expressing his disappointment and he said in a low voice, "Oh. I thought you would also mind if other females get close to me, just like." Elvis's gaze drifted towards Leah. God knew how jealous he was of Gu Mengmeng rushing over to snatch Leah and Nina away when she knew they were going to mate. If one day, Gu Mengmeng could also be jealous because of him, how good would that be? Chapter 356. Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat and pinched Elvis's waist harshly. She crooked her finger and gestured for Elvis to come closer. Although Elvis felt uncomfortable, he still obediently moved closer, thinking that Gu Mengmeng wanted to whisper something to him. In the end, Gu Mengmeng grabbed his ear and twisted it harshly. She placed one hand on her waist like a female yiksha and shouted, "Yes, I am jealous, so what? Let me tell you, Elvis, if you don't tell me who she is today, see if I will let you off." Ouch, 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 pain, 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 pain. Elvis laughed as he cried out in pain. He looked a little silly but was completely different from his bloodthirsty self in the forest. That female took a step forward and pulled Elvis's arm lightly, saying, "This beautiful little female, you have misunderstood the great tribe leader. He just saw injustice and saved me, there is nothing between us." Gu Mengmeng let go of Elvis and grabbed the female's wrist that was pulling Elvis. She twisted it outwards and it was a simple female self-defense technique. She easily twisted the female's hand behind her back and leaned against her back. She whispered into her ear, "I am a clean freak, especially when it comes to men. Whoever dares to stretch their claws towards my man, I will make sure that she will not be able to return." That female turned her head and a cold light shone in her eyes. If Gu Mengmeng was not so close to her, she would not have noticed it. She only used a moment to retract her gaze and put on a pitiful look, saying, You have really misunderstood me. There is really nothing between the great tribe leader and me." Sob, sob, sob. "Why do you have to bully me like this? My hand hurts so much." Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and thought to herself, "Wow, you have some skills. Alright, since I am bored, I will play with you." So Gu Meng Meng used her hidden strength to push the female forward. She seemed to be anticipating Gu Meng Meng to do that, even her falling motion looked especially gentle and graceful. But what she did not expect was that Gu Meng Meng landed on the ground earlier than her, falling below her. Xiao Meng. Elvis dashed over like a gust of wind and pushed away the female that almost fell on Gu Meng Meng. He scooped Gu Meng Meng into his arms and examined her carefully. Leah reached Gu Meng Meng's side almost at the same time. He looked at the broken skin on her knee and turned his head, his long and narrow eyes filled with murderous intent. No, it's not like that. She. That female was prepared to fall down, so even if she fell down, she would not be badly injured. But after being pushed by Elvis, she fell down hard. She had wanted to gain sympathy, but when she looked up, she met Lee's murderous eyes and was so frightened that she could not even speak properly. Sob, sob, sob. Elvis, you have a change of heart, haven't you? Gu Meng Meng's punches landed on Elvis's chest like raindrops. Even with eye drops, it was obvious that she was faking her tears. But her clumsy acting made Elvis's heart ache and he felt wronged. Other than shaking his head, he could not explain himself. He wanted to look at the wound on her knee, but she stood up stubbornly and limped forward. Her shoulders trembled as she said, "You brought a female back from the outside and pestered her in front of me. I only asked her who she was and you allowed her to kill me." Sob, sob, sob. Elvis, you don't want me now that you have a new lover, am I right? Aside from the topic, author, Gu Meng Meng, did you graduate from an acting academy? Chapter 357. Sob, sob, sobs, it hurts so much. Gu Meng Meng hugged her knees and buried her face between her legs. Unable to squeeze out any tears, she could only shake her shoulders and turn herself into vibrator mode. Xiao Meng, let Leah treat your injuries first, all right? Elvis felt extremely helpless. No matter how precious a female was to the tribe, if he knew that bringing her back would make Gu Meng Meng so angry and upset, he would definitely not have brought her back. Don't worry about it, just go and coax your new lover. Do you still care about my life or death? We haven't even made it for a year and you're already complaining that I'm getting old. Sob, sob, sobs. I'm not. Elvis was so anxious that he could not speak. After holding it in for a long while, he finally said, "How about I throw her back to where I picked her up, all right?" Gu Meng Meng then stopped her vibrator mode and looked up at Elvis, asking, "Won't your heart ache to throw such a good female away?" Seeing that she was finally willing to raise her head, Elvis heaved a sigh of relief and hugged Gu Meng Meng back into his arms, coaxing her, "Other than my queen, I won't feel heartache for anyone else. Don't cry, let Leah treat your injuries. I'll go and throw her away now." With that, Elvis sent Gu Meng Meng to Leah, then turned and walked towards that female with a black face. That female did not expect the plot to develop in this direction and was momentarily stunned. But she quickly reacted and grabbed onto the nearest male beside her, saying, "Warrior, please save me. If I'm thrown back into the forest, I'll definitely be caught by stray beasts again and I won't be able to survive then. Sob, sob, sobs, help me plead with the tribe leader, all right? Let me join your tribe. I can mate with you, I can mate with you now, please save me. Tribe leader." That male was a little hesitant. He pushed the messenger of the beast deity and caused her to be injured. If it was a male, he would have been torn apart by the crowd. But females were really too precious. The tribe just lost a female, it's time to add another. Leo looked up at Gu Meng Meng and gave her a look. Then, he continued, "Xiao Meng, can you forgive her for my sake this time?" Gu Meng Meng frowned. She looked at Leah, who was making faces at her, and muttered to herself. Did he fall in love with her? It made sense. Everyone in the tribe knew that he was her pet. Sandy and Maya would never mate with him. If he thought it through, he would have to find females outside the tribe. Based on his stubbornness towards Saint Nazir, it was impossible for him to change tribes, so the only path he could take was to mate with a new female. Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips, thinking that Leah really did not have good taste in women. But after all, this was his own life. Since she couldn't give him a promise, there was no reason for her to ruin his good fortune, right? Thus, Gu Mengmeng sniffled and stretched out her arms towards Elvis, saying, "Hubby, my legs hurt, I want a hug." Elvis understood that Gu Mengmeng had agreed to Lee's request. Chapter 358. Gu Mengmeng pouted and said, "Would you believe me if I said it's not painful?" Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's little face with heartache and said, "I'll feed you some good food later to nourish you." Gu Mengmeng nodded and nestled in Elvis's arms. She looked at the female and their eyes met in the air. There was no verbal communication and both of them looked like they were smiling. But only women could understand what the sparks in their eyes meant. That night, Leah arranged for a few males to protect the female while he called Elvis to bring Gu Mengmeng into the depths of the forest in the night. Elvis and Leah had been through life and death situations for many years and they did not need words to communicate with each other. This kind of tacit understanding was especially useful at times like this. "What's wrong? Not letting me sleep in the middle of the night?" Gu Mengmeng grumbled. Leah and Elvis exchanged glances and held their breaths to listen for a while. After confirming that no one was eavesdropping, Leah then whistled towards the night sky. A huge owl spread its wings and flew over from the night sky, landing in front of Gu Mengmeng and Leah. Gu Mengmeng patted Leah curiously and said, "Oh, not bad. When did you train an owl?" "This physique, tsk, so cool." Gu Mengmeng wanted to tease the owl but it shook its wings and turned into a human in front of Gu Mengmeng. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. Even though she had seen this trick of turning into a living person many times, she still felt shocked every time. Looking at the tall and cold naked man in front of her, Gu Mengmeng awkwardly retracted her demonic claws in midair. She chuckled and returned to Elvis's arms without saying a word. The naked man took over the beast-skin dress from Leah and said while wearing it, "I'm Ian, from the Eagle Owl tribe, not an owl." Gu Mengmeng put on an enlightened expression and smiled, saying, "Oh, you're Ian. I've heard a lot about you, sorry for not recognizing you." Ian actually could not handle Gu Mengmeng's trick. He cleared his throat and turned to Leah, saying, "Don't worry, I've arranged for someone to watch over her. She won't have the chance to eavesdrop." Leah then nodded, then looked at Gu Mengmeng and said, "I'm afraid that female was sent by Sauter." Gu Mengmeng was a little surprised, but after thinking about it, Leah was after all a member of Sauter, and a person of high status and authority, so he must be clearer than anyone else about Sauter's behavior. So, he didn't refute. After thinking for a while, he said, "So, you kept her here to keep an eye on her, not because you like her?" Leah paused for a moment and looked at Gu Mengmeng with his brows furrowed. He hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin with one hand and brought her little face closer to his. He looked straight into Gu Mengmeng's eyes with his long and affectionate eyes and said in a low and slow voice, "You suppressed your temper to make her stay, not because you understood my gaze, but because you want to give me to her. Am I already such a burden, troublesome, and disgusting existence to you?" "No, no." Gu Mengmeng retracted her chin guiltily and hid in Elvis's arms. Leah staggered 2 steps back and smiled bitterly. "You can't be unfaithful 100 times. This logic. I understand it all. Even if you already know that Nina's matter is fake, you can no longer trust my feelings for you, right? In your eyes, I'm just a heartless man who can have any female, right? Aside from the topic, author, Gu Mengmeng, sometimes I really feel that you and Leah are quite compatible." Gu Mengmeng, what do you mean? Author, both of you are schoolmates. Gu Mengmeng. Author, both of you graduated from acting academy, right? Sigh, I feel that just the two of you can act out Cheong Yao's version of the complete works of Shakespeare. Chapter 359. I didn't mean it that way, Leah. I'm sorry. Gu Mengmeng felt a little guilty. She didn't know her thoughts would make Leah so upset. Leah glanced sideways and stared into Gu Mengmeng's eyes. Compared to an apology, I want to hear your confession more. You know. Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips and said in a low voice, I'm sorry. Leah sighed deeply and didn't continue. He just adjusted his emotions and changed the topic back to that unfamiliar female. It's still 2 days' journey from here to Sauter. We don't know what else that female will do. We have to be more vigilant. Gu Mengmeng, you especially have to avoid getting close to her like today. Li's gaze landed on the wound on Gu Mengmeng's knee. He frowned. Don't let yourself get hurt again. Or else we might go crazy. Gu Mengmeng nodded. Don't worry, I will protect myself well. I'm just addicted to acting today. I'll spar with her. The three males looked at Gu Mengmeng blankly. They didn't seem to understand what she was saying. Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips. As expected, no matter how much time passes, males are always bad at judging bitches. Gu Mengmeng turned around and looked at Elvis. Didn't you realize that she was pretending to be gentle, innocent and pitiful the moment she came in? Elvis shook his head. I didn't notice, Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly. Ha, your acting was in vain. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath. She braced herself and straightened her body as if she was preparing to give a speech. She pulled your beast skin dress the moment she came in today, right? Elvis was shocked. I threw that beast skin dress into the fire. You saw it. Gu Mengmeng patted his shoulder, gesturing for him to calm down. Then, she continued, I only asked you who she was. Before you could answer, she ran out in a hurry to explain, saying, you've misunderstood, there's nothing between me and the great tribe leader, right? Gu Mengmeng pinched her throat to mimic that female's words. Elvis, Leah and the rest did not laugh at all. They recalled seriously. After thinking for a long time, they still couldn't recall anything. They could only say calmly. Seems so. Gu Mengmeng sighed again. My acting was for nothing. Apart from me, no one else saw it. The three males looked at each other, then listened to Gu Mengmeng's analysis seriously and attentively, as if they were listening to an old driver talking about how he had flipped his car over and over again while driving. Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat and continued, this is the most common opening line used by green tea bitches. On the surface, she looked like she was explaining, but in actual fact, she was purposely causing me to misunderstand. With that innocent and terrified expression, coupled with her little action of pulling Elvis's skirt, it was easy for me to suspect that something had already happened between them in the forest. A chill ran down Elvis's spine and he instantly exploded, Xiao Meng, I swear, I didn't. Gu Mengmeng cupped Elvis's face with both hands and kissed him gently. I know you didn't, I believe you. Only then did Elvis let out a long sigh of relief. His heart, which was hanging in his throat, finally settled down. With a lingering fear, she said, then why did you say that I had a change of heart today? I was so scared that I wanted to cut open my chest to let you see if my heart was filled with you. Aside from the topic, recommending a new article to the little darlings who were lacking in books, the reborn first daughter Rakshasa, in her previous life, although she was the first daughter of the Lin family, she did not wish to participate in those schemes. She only wished to live a peaceful and ordinary life. Even when she was bullied by others, she just wanted to keep the peace. She tolerated everything and kept a low profile. But in the end, she was still schemed against and trusted the wrong person. Not only did she lose her reputation and ended up with her corpse abandoned in the wilderness, she even implicated everyone who loved her to be imprisoned, never to be reincarnated. The moment before her death, she finally came to her senses and was filled with regret. Now, God had given her a chance to return to this world. Her biological father was unkind and her sisters were unjust. Since that was the case, she might as well tear off this hypocritical veil and tear apart the scumbags and evil women. Those who bullied her, she would repay them 100 times over. Chapter 360. Gu Mengmeng placed her hand on Elvis's chest and said, "Whether you have a change of heart, you don't have to go through the trouble of cutting open your stomach. I just need to look into your eyes and I will know." Elvis looked at Gu Mengmeng in confusion, and when he met her clear eyes, he smiled. That's right, one's eyes could not lie. He could also easily tell how much Gu Mengmeng liked him from her eyes. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. Gu Mengmeng then continued, "I made a scene today to give her a taste of her own medicine. I want to let her know that it's useless to play tricks with me. White and green, they are all leftovers from my play." The three males were dumbfounded again. They completely did not understand what Gu Mengmeng was saying. Elvis reached out to pluck a leaf from the side and passed it to Gu Mengmeng, saying, "Green. You can play with it first. I will help you find a new one tomorrow." Gu Mengmeng was taken aback for a moment before she started laughing. "Your IQ. Ha ha ha. You are indeed a husky." Elvis completely did not know what Gu Mengmeng was laughing about. But seeing her laughing so happily, the corners of his lips could not help but curl up. Gu Mengmeng laughed enough before continuing, "Green refers to a green tea bitch. This kind of person is most commonly seen in my world. Pretending to be weak, innocent, pitiful, and ignorant. The green tea bitches in my world are much more experienced than her. With her acting skills today, she is just a beginner in my world. A newbie who can fight against 5 trash." Then White. Leo looked at his own tail and was a little worried. Gu Mengmeng said, "White refers to a white lotus. Pretending to be the Virgin Mary, kind, pure and loving. Not only can I not hate you if you kill my entire family, but I will also forgive you, protect you, take care of you and influence you." The classic line is, "How could you do that? What's the difference between you and him?" It was as if everyone around her was mud and they were the only white and flawless flower that was not tainted by dust. This kind of thing doesn't happen in real life where I come from, but I've seen a lot of them in TV dramas and novels. She's a self-taught person. She wants to compete with me, who has passed the 4th or 6th grade in palace dramas and has a double postdoctorate in romance novels. TSK TSK TSK, I'll give her 2 hands and 2 feet. I can stare her to death with just my pair of eyes." Elvis and Leah exchanged glances, deeply feeling that the war between females was far more terrifying than the war between males. What had they experienced today? What did I miss this time? He felt as if he had walked through a bloody battlefield, but he didn't realize that he had almost died on the battlefield. F***ck me. It was so dangerous. Then, what do we do next? For the first time in his life, Leah felt that his brain was not enough. This had already exceeded the limits of his understanding. The females in Solder in the past, were there any like this? Gu Mengmeng shrugged and said, "It's not what we want, it's what she wants." Elvis frowned. "Since it's so troublesome, why don't we just chase them away?" Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "Even if we chase away a lunatic today, there will be another one tomorrow. Instead of guarding against someone who we don't know when they will appear beside us, why not guard against someone we already know? The more we know she has a problem, the more we have to keep her under our eyes. As long as we make use of her properly, it will be a good thing for us. This is also the reason why Leah wanted me to agree to let her stay today, right? Aside from the topic, author, Son, TSK, you picked up a green tea bitch today. Elvis, I know. Author, how did you know? Elvis, my wife told me. Author, do you understand what your wife analyzed for you? Elvis shook his head, expressing, I don't understand. But whoever my wife says is a green tea bitch is a green tea bitch. I'll listen to my wife. Author. You're intelligent, you're indeed my son. Update completed for today. Continue tomorrow. Babies, please vote for Susu. Chapter 361. Smart. Leah smiled approvingly and tapped Gu Mingming's brow. You're indeed the great messenger. You got it right away. Gu Mengmeng understood what Leah meant. He was trying his best to ease the awkward atmosphere. No matter how upset he was, he did not want her to feel guilty. So Gu Mengmeng played along and wrinkled her nose. She pretended to be proud and said, I'm a very low-profile person. I don't like to worship others. Moreover, don't mention this kind of thing that the whole world knows about. Leah smiled faintly. His eyes were filled with love. He replied gently, the great messenger is right. Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat. You guys better tell me about the beauty pageant first. What should I do then? Gu Mengmeng looked up at Elvis. You've been there many times, right? Tell me, will they be competing in singing, dancing, or poetry? Elvis kissed Gu Mingming's raised face. They'll compete in eating. Ha! Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded. Isn't it a beauty pageant? Why did it change to an eating contest? Elvis smiled. The biggest insecurity of a male in the beast world comes from the fear that his partner will not survive the winter. The stronger the male, the more afraid he is of this. This was because once the female died, the weaker males would definitely die due to the backlash of the mating contract. However, the stronger males might not die. Most of the time, not being able to die itself is an even greater torture. Gu Mengmeng remained silent for a moment. She hugged Elvis's neck and asked, yeah, just like when you suddenly fainted when you were leveling up. I thought you were too seriously injured and could not survive. I felt extremely helpless then. I felt that if you were not around, my world would collapse. I don't know how I could survive without you in the beast world. Elvis's heart warmed at Gu Mingming's words. He kissed Gu Mingming's head and stroked her hair gently. I'll protect you. I'll always protect you. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head obediently. She continued, but what has this got to do with eating in a beauty pageant? Elvis adjusted his position so that Gu Mengmeng could sit more comfortably. He then replied, in the eyes of a male, the way a female eats is the most beautiful. The more a female could eat, the more energy she could store before winter, and the higher her chances of survival during winter. Therefore, this is one of the most basic and important factors for males to choose a mate. Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly. She recalled how Elvis and Leah racked their brains to trick her into eating food previously and could not help but smile. So you guys have been trying to make me eat food the entire winter because you were afraid that I would not be able to survive and starve to death during the winter? Elvis nodded his head seriously and pinched Gu Mingming's tummy twice. He sighed regretfully and said, I didn't know you were pregnant at first and thought you had finally put on some weight. I was so happy, but you chased after me and beat me up for the entire day. You also looked very angry and I didn't eat properly for 3 whole days. Gu Mingming's eyes widened. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed and said, we can store enough food before winter and eat slowly during the winter, so we don't have to eat ourselves into a bowl. Look, last year we had salted meat, salted fish, potatoes and sweet potatoes. Although it was a little monotonous, it was mainly because time was too tight and I did not have time to find more. This year, I have experience and can definitely prepare more food in advance. Winter is not a problem at all. So don't worry, I won't starve myself to death and leave you alone. Moreover, we still have a son. I still want to live to a ripe old age and watch my son marry a wife, aside from the topic. Chapter 362. Elvis automatically ignored the part about his son and only heard Gu Mengmeng saying that she would not leave him alone. He smiled blissfully and then hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly in his arms, whispering into her ear, "Remember this promise, do you understand? Never leave me alone." Yeah. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis back, smiling blissfully and gently. Leah cleared his throat, coughed and said, "Mengmeng, about that female, do you want to ask someone to send her back to Saint Nazaire now, or bring her?" Gu Mengmeng said without hesitation, comparing eating, "Even 8 of me can't beat one Sandy. Those who came to participate in the beauty pageant are all the eating generals from the tribes. It's not enough even if I become a force-fed duck. That female, ha ha ha, just in time to use her." "You want her to participate in the beauty pageant for you?" Leah asked. Gu Mengmeng stretched out a finger and shook it, saying, "No, she will only participate in the Eating King segment. As for recruitment, I have other plans." Recruit. Elvis and Leah were no longer surprised by Gu Mengmeng spitting out new words from time to time. They just looked at Gu Mengmeng in confusion, waiting for her explanation. Gu Mengmeng smiled like Zhou Bopi, with a cunning look on her face, shrugging her shoulders and shining eyes. She looked like an evil capitalist thinking of how to exploit the poor commoners. To be more specific, it was a little like the landlord in QQ Fight the Landlord. Ever since I came to the beast world, I have been doubting my own worth. I have regretted more than 800 times why I chose human resource management as my major in the first place. Why didn't I learn carpentry, metallurgy, or medicine? Now I understand, I was born with a talent that has a use, it has a use. My major is prepared for the annual large-scale blind date. Oh no, the large-scale job fair. Gu Mengmeng put on a look as if the heavens were pitying her and she could finally show off her ambitions, saying with a smile, "A large number of talents, beast talents. They are strong males, looking for a tribe that suits them in this beauty pageant. Isn't this the same as looking for a job in the job market? It's just that the way you guys look for a job is too random. Whether the job is good or not depends on how much the female eats. This is not scientific, it's not scientific at all." "Then you mean?" Leah pressed on. Gu Mengmeng chuckled and said, "I have my own plans, you guys won't understand even if I tell you. In short, Lil Miss will combine the theories I learned with reality to create the most suitable recruitment plan. As for the rest of you, as long as you believe, don't ask." "Okay." Elvis, Leah and Ian looked at each other, then mimicked Gu Mingming's gesture of okay and said, "Oh. Oh, as for that female, as long as she's not an idiot, she should know that she's no match for me after today's battle. As long as she knows her place, Saint Nazaire won't be short of food from her. But if she dares to play dirty with me..." I see that the snakeskin pattern on her lower body is unique and exquisite, and I have never used a wallet made of nuwa skin." Elvis and Leah looked at each other and smiled. They were already used to Gu Mingming's ruthless words from time to time, but if they really asked her to skin them, she would probably be more cowardly than anyone else. However, the fact that she had taken a fancy to the female's tale, the two of them had already firmly remembered it. Aside from the topic, someone asked me, will the things in the introduction happen? Chapter 363. Gu Mengmeng looked at Ian and then at Leah, asking, "Has Ian been following us all this while?" Leah nodded his head as a reply. "Since he has already joined the tribe, why didn't he directly walk with us?" Leah smiled and said, "His route is different from ours, they walk above." As Leah said, he pointed at the top of their heads. Gu Mengmeng reacted, it was indeed inhumane to force a bird to give up on the sky and walk on two legs. She smiled awkwardly and asked again, "Then what do you guys eat on the way? Did you bring enough food?" Ian was surprised. He looked at Gu Meng Meng and then at Leah. Seeing that Leah was indicating for him to explain to Gu Meng Meng, he hesitated for a moment but still opened his mouth. "As long as it's not winter, we have plenty of food everywhere." Gu Meng Meng tilted her head and looked at Ian, asking, "What do you guys eat? Is it like an owl?" Ian tilted his head to the side, as if he was a little embarrassed, as if he was not too willing to answer Gu Meng Meng's question. Leah used his hand to cover half of his lips, moving closer to Gu Meng Meng's ear in a flirtatious manner, using a volume that everyone could hear to whisper, "I don't know what an owl eats, but I know what he eats." "What does he eat?" Gu Meng Meng's eyes shone with a thick spirit of gossip. Leah sneered and did not answer Gu Meng Meng's question. Instead, he looked at Ian and said, "If there's really something wrong with that fellow, remember to leave the skin on her tail when you guys eat her." Gu Meng Meng said she likes it. Ian pursed his lips and looked at Leah. He did not say a word and just transformed into an eagle owl, flapped his wings twice and flew up close to the ground, disappearing into the night in less than 2 breaths. Gu Meng Meng's smile froze on her face. She turned her head and asked Leah, They eat humans?" Lee's gaze was calm as he fiddled with a small tuft of fur on the tip of his tail. "I have already reported to the beast deity that these 32 people from the Eagle Owl tribe will protect you in the name of Yongyi. If Elvis and I are your fangs and claws, Barit and Colin are your armor and shield, then these 32 people from the Eagle Owl tribe are your wings, hiding in the darkness to protect you, to bring you wherever you want to go, and to remove obstacles for you. If they threaten you, even if it's me and Elvis, they will use all means to bring us up to the sky and tear us into pieces. They will never forgive us." 2 words popped up in Gu Meng Meng's mind out of nowhere: embroidered uniform guards. "Where the rod is stuck." Leo looked at Elvis and saw that he was also confused, so he asked, "What is that?" Gu Meng Meng explained, "It's an organization that is not loyal to the country but loyal to the emperor himself. They are not under the jurisdiction of the imperial court and directly take orders from the emperor. There's no right or wrong, they don't question right or wrong, and only obey the emperor's orders." Leah nodded as he listened and smiled. "Embroidered uniform guards is better than Yongyi. Why don't we change the name of the Eagle Owl tribe to Embroidered Uniform Guards?" Chapter 364. Gu Meng Meng did not know that Ian had secretly returned to his original spot after flying 1 round and was hiding on the tree above her head. Therefore, he had heard every single word that she had said. Ian's eyes flashed in the darkness and he chuckled. He had indeed found a good backer for his clansmen. Shouldn't they have the fate of hiding in the shadows and not being able to see anyone? He had never dared to make such a promise to his own clansmen. That day, when Gu Meng Meng and the rest returned from the forest, they bumped into a heated scene. The new female's snake tail was wrapped around a male's body, and the male's hands were tightly hugging the female's upper body. The 2 of them were performing an indescribable movement in a magical posture. Gu Meng Meng stared with her eyes wide open for 2 seconds before burping. She then turned around and buried her face into Elvis's shoulder, saying softly, "My eyes hurt, my eyes hurt." Leo looked at Gu Meng Meng in confusion, then took out a chili from his beast skin bag and passed it to Gu Meng Meng, saying, "It's not dried yet, I found it on the road. The effect might not be as good as what you eat during the winter, but it should work. Who do you want to spit? Can I help you?" Gu Meng Meng looked at the chili in Lee's hands and was stunned for a while before she reacted. Leah had told her that they had grinded the chili into powder and scattered it on their enemies' faces in the winter when he gave her the chili in the cave. Gu Meng Meng had jokingly said that this move was called spicy eyes. It was just a joke and she did not expect Leah to remember it. However, the current situation was not suitable for him to explain these things. Gu Meng Meng took the green chili from Lee's hands and took a bite. After chewing a few times, she patted Elvis's back and said, "The scene is too beautiful, I don't dare to look. Let's sleep somewhere else." Elvis knew that Gu Meng Meng had some special rules when it came to mating, but he thought that she just did not like others to see her mating. Now that he saw it, she did not like to see others mating either. Elvis glanced at the orcs who were mating with the half-orc female snake and laughed in disdain. "There's really nothing to see. How about I throw them further away? I won't disturb your sleep." Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, "Sigh, doing bad things is like killing one's parents. It's too immoral. Forget it, let's just change places." Elvis thought about it and asked, "Isn't disturbing one's sweet dreams like killing one's parents? Why do bad people do good things like killing their parents?" Gu Meng Meng remembered that she had shouted this sentence when Nina was disturbing her sleep outside the cave. At that time, Nina said that she was looking for Leah in her cave. Gu Meng Meng laughed bitterly, thinking to herself how many holes had she dug for herself with her mouth. If he were to explain them one by one, well, there was no need to change the location. The and at the back could be used as background music. He reckoned that after he finished explaining the nonsense that he had said in the past, the accompaniment would probably stop. How the F***ck should I start with? Welcome everyone to Gu Meng Meng's Nonsense Lecture Hole. Today's BGM is a unique live mating poem recitation with a hint of coquettish vibe. Gu Meng Meng shuddered and twitched her lips. "Bring me to wash my eyes first. If I stay here any longer, my eyes will become useless. By then, corns will grow, I'll have to dig them out." Elvis was taken aback. He did not expect things to be so serious. Gu Meng Meng's eyes would become useless when she saw others mating. It was only until Elvis, who was burning with anxiety, brought Gu Meng Meng to the stream to help her wash her eyes, but instead, Gu Meng Meng tore off his beast-skin dress and threw herself into the stream. She looked at him from head to toe in a lustful manner that he finally understood, how to wash his eyes. Chapter 365. The next morning, when Gu Meng Meng returned to the campsite in Elvis's arms, there were already 4 to 5 males sitting around the half-orc female. Seeing this scene, Gu Meng Meng could not help but exclaim, "So damn efficient. Great messenger, hello." The half-orc female came forward and bowed to Gu Meng Meng. She looked so docile and respectful, totally not looking like she was playing tricks with Gu Meng Meng yesterday. Gu Meng Meng returned the same gentle smile and said, "Since we're on the same side, you don't have to be so polite. You can just call me Gu Meng Meng like everyone else." "How can I do that? You're the honorable great messenger," the half-orc female said in a panic. Gu Meng Meng squinted her eyes and smiled. She thought to herself, to keep saying the words messenger of the beast deity, she was obviously afraid that she would not attract enough attention, right? Back then, that idiot Nina only spread her suspected identity as the messenger of the beast deity and she almost died under Dumbo's claws. TSK, such a gentle knife. She was trying to push her to the heart of the struggle. But it was a pity that Gu Meng Meng did not intend to hide her identity as the messenger of the beast deity, or else she would not have participated in this eating contest under the guise of a beauty pageant. "You want to play, let's play then." Gu Meng Meng patted Elvis's shoulder and gestured for him to put her down. Then, she walked slowly to the front of the female and sized her up, asking, "What's your name?" "Ellie." The half-orc female answered respectfully. Gu Meng Meng nodded and asked again, "Ellie, yesterday, how many males in our tribe did you mate with?" Ellie turned back shyly and looked at the males surrounding her. She answered, 4. "Ah." Gu Meng Meng nodded approvingly while continuing to size her up. Ellie lowered her head shyly and said, "Although I'm just a half-orc female, I will still fulfill my obligation to mate for the tribe. As long as they, don't despise me for being a half-orc, I will give them a chance to prove their loyalty to me. Gu Mengmeng gestured for him to stop and frowned in deep thought. She asked, you mated with 4 males, then what about your mating mark? Ali's brows drooped, looking like a delicate and pitiful little white flower. She bit her lower lip and did not speak, as if she was about to cry. Reporting to Lord Envoy. Ellie's first partner, the one she caught yesterday to plead with Elvis, stood in front of Gu Mengmeng and gently hugged Ellie's shoulders to comfort her. Then, he explained for Ellie with a face full of heartache, our mating mark is on Ellie's tail. Because it was a half-beast, it was covered by the snake's scales and could not be seen. Because of this, Ellie has been upset for the whole night yesterday. So, great messenger, please don't ask any more. Oh. Gu Mengmeng nodded with a look of sudden realization. She thought to herself, little guy, you have some tricks up your sleeves. You managed to win people's hearts so quickly. However, this didn't seem to require any special methods. Looking at Quentin, it was obvious how blind the males in the beast world were towards love. Chapter 366. Ellie was taken aback. She thought that Gu Mengmeng would expose her so that she could cry and pretend to be pitiful to gain the favoritism of most people. But, why didn't Gu Mengmeng follow the script? Ellie's first partner grinned and comforted Ellie. See, I told you that the great messenger is easy to get along with. We have a half-beast female bear in our tribe who was always bullied, but the great messenger never looked down on her and even became best friends with her and always took care of her. Ellie quickly tidied up the shock on her face and changed into a harmless and weak look. She nodded and smiled at Gu Mengmeng, saying, Great messenger, you are really a good person. Ding dong, Gu Mengmeng received a good person card. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly. Damn it, she really didn't expect that the first good person card in her life was given by a coquettish and cheap green tea bitch. Gu Mengmeng remained calm and patted Ellie's shoulder, saying, Don't worry, Saint Nazir is a tolerant tribe. You just have to stay in the tribe and live a good life. Yeah, I will. Ellie smiled brightly, but it did not match her snake tail at all. Gu Mengmeng did not say anything more and just turned around to return to Elvis's arms. Nothing much happened during the day's journey, but when night fell, Ellie's mating operation started again. Gu Mengmeng found an excuse to leave with Elvis and Leah while Ian naturally followed them secretly. After walking to a sufficient distance, Gu Mengmeng then spoke, Leah, tell the tribesmen that I don't wish to see more people mating with Ellie. Leah nodded and did not ask why. Elvis looked at Ian again and asked, Ian, snakes, are they one of your food sources? Ian nodded and did not say a word. Gu Mengmeng asked again, then do you have a certain level of understanding towards snakes? Ian still only nodded. Gu Mengmeng continued, when I held her hand today, did you see her tail? Ian nodded again, and after a moment of silence, he finally opened his mouth and said, when you approached her, her tail started to tremble. That is the sign of an attack. She wants to kill you. The last 4 words undoubtedly touched Elvis and Lee's reverse scale. The surrounding atmosphere instantly froze. The two of them exchanged glances and made a decision. Gu Mengmeng gently raised her hand and said, calm down, calm down. Analyze it, all right? Lee's fingertips were slightly cold as he hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin lightly. He frowned and said, no matter how useful she is, we cannot use your safety as the price. So, we can't keep this Ellie. Didn't you say she was sent by Sauter? Gu Mengmeng said, think about it, Sauter calls itself the messenger's tribe, but a messenger's tribe without messengers is destined to be annihilated. So Sauter's motive should be to obtain me and not to kill me. A dead messenger would be useless to Sauter, right? Since Ellie is from Sauter, not only will she not kill me, she will also protect me in danger. Chapter 367. But Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, maybe her tail shaking today was just her instinct. After all, females are precious and she has already mated with the males in our tribe. If we want to kill her, we will have to sacrifice our tribesmen. It's not worth it, it's really not worth it. Leo was silent and speechless. But Elvis spoke up. From the moment they chose to mate with Ellie, they placed their fates in the hands of that female. This is their own decision and no one else has anything to do with it. Gu Meng Meng cupped Elvis's face and kissed it, saying, I know you are worried about me, but Ellie is not Nina. Before she does anything substantial, I don't want to kill the innocent. Moreover, I want to use her to catch the big fish. Elvis thought about it and nodded silently. He then turned around and broke off a branch that was as thick as an arm from a tree beside him and said, I will tie her here for you to fish tomorrow, is that all right? Gu Meng Meng face-bombed and said, hubby, I don't want to catch the fish in the water but the people behind her, so, I don't think I have to use this branch anymore. Elvis felt a little regretful. He was still hoping that after she finished fishing, Ellie would have no more value to him and he could get rid of her as soon as possible. Leo looked at Gu Meng Meng and asked, you want to use Ellie to lure the people from Sauter out? Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, correct. How to lure them out? Leah frowned and had a bad premonition. Gu Meng Meng didn't answer Lee's question and just asked with a smile, how far are we from Sauter now? Lee's gaze was cast in a direction and he was silent for a moment before saying, about half a day's journey. We should be able to reach by tomorrow afternoon. Gu Meng Meng looked at Lee's nostalgic gaze and couldn't bear to see him like this. She asked, this is your first time back to Sauter? Leah shook his head and then nodded, saying, when Saint Nazir was first established, Elvis and I came here once. But we didn't enter the city and just left after saving Maya at the periphery. After that, Elvis would bring people to escort Nina to the beauty pageant every year while I stayed at Saint Nazir to look after the house. Gu Meng Meng nodded and patted Lee's shoulder lightly. If you feel that it's too much, you don't have to accompany me in. But Leah smiled. His long and narrow eyes became gentle and determined when he met Gu Meng Meng's gaze. His voice was low and he spoke slowly. He enunciated each word clearly, I'm not going in with you. I only have the courage to face that place with you around. Gu Meng Meng smiled. Perhaps it was because the moonlight was too gentle, so her smile was exceptionally tranquil. His voice was like the melody of flowing moonlight. His ears could not hear it, but his eyes could see it clearly. His heart could feel it. It's my honor, Gu Meng Meng said. Elvis hesitated for a moment but still decided to break the beautiful silence. He frowned and said, Leah, before you left Sauter, were there people from the snake tribe in Sauter? Chapter 368. Elvis nodded, then continued, I also find it strange, I've never seen anyone from the snake tribe in any tribe, and I have a strange feeling towards her, it's very familiar, just like a stray beast. Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis in confusion, asking, there are female stray beasts. Isn't it said that females are very precious, and every tribe is fighting for them? Elvis replied, that's usually the case, but there are exceptions, like Nina. Gu Meng Meng was taken aback, then she frowned and said, don't tell me that the reason she doesn't have a mating mark is not because she's a half-beast, but because she's the same as Nina, a female who washed off her mating mark and was abandoned by the beast deity. Elvis nodded, and after a moment of silence, he replied, other than being abandoned by the beast deity like Nina, without a mating mark, there's another situation. Elvis's gaze dimmed, as if his heart was very heavy. Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis in confusion, then turned to look at Leah. Leah shook his head at her, indicating that he did not know what was wrong with Elvis. Hubby. Gu Meng Meng wrapped her arms around Elvis's neck, using her forehead to gently touch Elvis's, saying gently, did you think of something bad? If you don't want to say, you don't have to force yourself. Elvis used his hands to hold Gu Mingming's singlet and pushed her towards him, taking a deep breath, filling his nostrils with her fragrance. After soothing the discomfort in his heart, he then continued, "The other situation is when a female is snatched away by a stray beast, and after mating, she gives birth to a cub. In this situation, the cub is born as a stray beast, so there's no way to leave a mating mark." Gu Mengmeng saw an obvious emotion in Elvis's eyes, one that was more profound than sadness, and more profound than pain. It was an indescribable complexity, causing her heart to stop for a moment. Without saying anything, she just hugged Elvis's neck tightly, using her entire body to fill his embrace. "Just like me." Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng back tightly, mustering his courage to say these 5 words. His identity was not a secret in the tribe, and he had never been afraid of revealing his background. Until he met her, he was afraid that she would despise him because of his life, alienate him, avoid him, and so he was always humble in front of her, always cautious, always worried about personal gains and losses. For the first time, he felt that admitting that he was a natural stray beast required so much courage. At that moment, he did not even dare to look into Gu Mingming's eyes. He was afraid of seeing her disgust, afraid that she would say that she wanted to abandon him. "Fool, you have me and our 4 sons. You have a family, how can you be a stray beast?" Elvis's heart skipped a beat and he could even hear the sound of his blood boiling. "I didn't tell you my identity before mating, you don't blame me." Elvis furrowed his brows tightly, every word he asked sounded as if he was treading on thin ice. Gu Mengmeng exhaled and laughed. She placed her hands on Elvis's shoulders and looked into his eyes, asking, "Before you mated with me, did you have any special female friends?" Hearing her strange sentence, Elvis frowned and shook his head. "Other than Leah, I don't have any friends." Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis ambiguously with an "I understand" expression, then looked at Leah with an evil smile. Chapter 369. Since you didn't cheat or come out of the closet before marriage, why should I mind? Gu Mengmeng smiled casually, her clear eyes emitting a light that was gentler than the moonlight. She shone down a layer of radiance, lighting up Elvis's heart that had been sealed in ice for a long time. Those unbearable, cold and dark memories seemed so insignificant in front of her smile. "But I was once a vagrant, fool." Gu Mengmeng held Elvis's face with both hands and looked into his eyes seriously, saying, "Before we met each other, we were all vagrants. Luckily, you found me and I found you. Then, we became each other's hometown, no longer having to wander from place to place, no longer having no one to depend on. Every piece of land we walked hand in hand, was filled with poetry and distance." Xiao Meng. Elvis leaned forward and kissed Gu Mingming's lips deeply. Heaven knew that from the moment he fell in love with her, he had always been worried that his identity would become the reason for her to abandon him. And this reason now seemed so pale, so laughable, just so. If all the hardships and torments in the past were to meet her, then, it was too worth it. Even if the past were to repeat itself 100 times in exchange for female happiness, Elvis felt that it was worth it. So, the beast deity did not abandon him. He was only testing him, training him, and now, he gave the best to him. After the kiss, Gu Mengmeng slapped Elvis's head, raised her chin and said, "Call me queen." Elvis was instantly dispelled by Gu Mingming's slap. He smiled helplessly and shook his head, but his heart was filled with warmth. He knew that Gu Mengmeng was using this method to pull him out of his sadness. But what she didn't know was that his sorrow had already vanished into thin air in her smile. The moment Gu Mengmeng said that she did not care about the past, it no longer had any meaning. Holding Gu Mingming's little hand, Elvis planted a kiss on the back of her hand and said sincerely, "Yes, my queen." Gu Mengmeng nodded approvingly, then snuggled back into Elvis's arms. That was her exclusive throne. Then, she looked up at Elvis and asked, so you suspect that Ellie is the child of a stray beast? Elvis nodded and said, I can't rule out this possibility. Leah continued, after returning home yesterday, I specially observed Ellie carefully. She really matches the characteristics you mentioned. And these were things that females in the beast world would never do. The circumstances of their lives made it impossible for them to conceal their true intentions. Because no matter what they want, the males will agree. As for Ailey, she's too understanding and impeccable. Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, unfortunately, perfection itself is the biggest flaw. This was the first time Leah had heard of this theory. He was stunned for a moment and pondered over it. He did not reply and just smiled. The next morning, when Gu Meng Meng and the gang returned to the campsite, Ellie's males had increased from 4 to 9. Gu Meng Meng praised Ellie's positive attitude towards solving the problem of mating in the tribe and encouraged her to continue working hard in the upcoming beauty pageant to win more followers for the tribe. Perhaps only Ellie's 9 partners, who did not know the truth, believed it to be true. Out of topic, today's update is over. Continue tomorrow at 9. Chapter 370. The hidden daggers between Gu Meng Meng and Ellie had already started to show. Because other than the 9 males that Ellie had already mated with, she could no longer seduce any other tribesmen from St. Nazaire. Or rather, under Lee's guidance, Ellie's 9 partners became nervous. No matter what Ellie needed, the 9 of them would cooperate with each other to complete it quickly, not giving her any chance to extend an olive branch to anyone else. And although Ellie was furious, she still maintained her innocent demeanor and did not dare to show her dissatisfaction. According to Lee's prediction, they arrived at Sauder in the afternoon. Standing at the entrance of the messenger's tribe, Gu Meng Meng looked up at the horizontal board on the 2 wooden pillars. The 4 words, messenger's tribe, were written in a sage-like manner. It was just that it had been a long time and had been weathered badly. Gu Meng Meng felt that if she were to sneeze here, the horizontal board could be shattered into dust and blown away by the wind, never to be seen again. Elvis did not know how to read and just followed Gu Meng Meng's gaze upwards. It was just a piece of broken wood with a few scratches from claws. He did not know what was so nice about it. But Gu Meng Meng had always been fond of unusual things and he was already used to it. So he asked softly, do you like it? Gu Meng Meng snapped out of her trance and looked at Elvis's face. She calmed herself down and smiled, no, it's just that I haven't seen simplified Chinese characters for a long time. It's a little familiar. Leah frowned and looked at Gu Meng Meng, asking, you recognize the markings on it? Gu Meng Meng did not answer but asked back, you don't? Leah shook his head and said, this wooden board was left behind by the previous messenger. Other than her, no one knows what it means. Gu Meng Meng asked in surprise, you guys don't know how to read? Then what do you guys think of those ancient books that you mentioned in the past? Leah said, ancient books are for worship and not for reading. Gu Meng Meng, Leah said, the contents of the ancient books are all passed down from father to son to grandson, generation after generation. So when it reached my generation, there aren't many left. Or else. Lee's gaze drifted towards the interior of Sauder. His gaze was deep and cold, as though it was calm, but his heart was already in turmoil. His thin lips parted slightly, still smiling, but every word seemed to have the weight of 1,000 gold. He said sonorously, how could I be so easily tricked by them back then? Gu Meng Meng patted Lee's shoulder and said, revenge is a dish best served cold. Now that we're here, we might as well help you take revenge. Gu Meng Meng pointed at the severely weathered signboard and smiled slyly, I know these words, I will read them to you from the ancient books later. Leo was taken aback but his gaze immediately turned gentle. He smiled and said, all right. Gu Meng Meng took the initiative to hold his hand. Hubby, let's go. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng up and used the beast's skin to cover her little head, trying his best not to expose her face. But even so, the group still caused quite a commotion when they entered Sauder. If not for Elvis and Leah exuding a strong aura along the way, the three of them would have been surrounded to the point where they could not move an inch. And beside Ellie, who was just a few steps away, other than the 9 males who had already made it, there was not even a single foreign fly. A snake's eyes were poisonous after all. Perhaps it was unintentional, but it was hard to change one's nature. Aside from the topic, recommending 1p for support, Overlord Pet, Cute Queen is too mischievous, a beautiful sheep fell from the sky, and someone on the ground turned into a wolf. Mo Shuyang, Sheep. The war went on, the country was saved, but was captured by the enemy leader in the end. Captured to be a manservant? Serving tea, cleaning the backyard, coaxing a bunch of drama queen women was one thing, but he had to be in charge of warming the bed? Damn it, there were so many women in the backyard, but he had to pester his mother. Was there something wrong with his brain? Situlang, wolf woman, this king is very interested in the cat you're raising called Duola whatever dream. He wanted to be a cat lover, but in the end, he became a wolf that ate sheep. Sheep, I realize that you're more adorable and easier to bully than that cat. A certain sheep was roaring in his heart. Sheep, I'm not a wolf, do you believe me? Chapter 371. If there was anything in the messenger's tribe that made Gu Mengmeng happy, it would probably be the houses. This place was different from Saint Nazaire. No one lived in a cave, or rather, the locals of Sauder and the females who came to participate in the beauty pageant did not need to stay in a cave. There were old houses that resembled those in an old village, built with pieces of huge green stone bricks. Honestly speaking, it really could not be considered luxurious. If it was in the modern world, it would either be a cultural heritage that was being protected, or an endangered building with a big red demolition sign. But in this place, it already showed the difference and superiority of the messenger's tribe. Are you representing Saint Nazaire to participate in the beauty pageant? A guard at the entrance of the stone house asked Elvis, who was standing in front of him. Yes. Elvis replied. The guard glanced at Leah and did not say a word. He just turned his body to the side to let them in, indicating that they could enter. After entering the house, Elvis placed Gu Mengmeng on the stone table at the side, before he and Leah started to clean the house. The house was very simple, just a simple little house. In the modern world, the layout of a child's house was much more lively than this house. It was not that Gu Mengmeng was picky, but this little house was not even half the size of her dormitory. Now that the three of them were inside, it was already a little cramped. If either Elvis or Leah transformed into their original forms, they would probably directly break the frame of this dilapidated house. There was a stone bed in the room. The surface was full of bumps and hollows, but the edges were abnormally smooth. It was not an exaggeration to say that this damn bed had been slept into paste. Elvis and Leah took out a piece of tiger skin and laid it on the bed, before arranging Gu Mengmeng's little pillow. The giant rabbit skin quilt was neatly folded at the side. After settling everything, Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng to the bed and said, "It's been a tough journey for you. Take a rest first. I will bring my tribesmen to the cave at the back of the mountain to rest, and help you bring food back." Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "Then be careful and come back quickly." Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead lightly, then exchanged a look with Leah. Without saying anything else, he turned around and left. Gu Mengmeng dangled her feet on the bed in boredom as she watched Leah place the fruits he picked on the way on the table in an orderly manner. Then, he took out the clothes that Gu Mengmeng needed to change into for the next few days and checked them one by one. Those that had problems were immediately remedied and those that had no problems were folded and placed at the side. He was in a relaxed and natural state, as if he did not feel any discomfort after returning to Sauder. On the contrary, Gu Mengmeng was not used to being alone with Leo like this. She cleared her throat and asked, "That, you shouldn't have been recognized, right? I think they're all quite normal. It shouldn't be possible for someone to suddenly rush in with soldiers to capture you, right?" Leo smiled and tilted his head to look at Gu Mengmeng. "The first beauty of a tribe lives in every stone house here. If you create trouble here, you will be offending all the tribes at the same time. Even Sauter would not dare to do such a reckless thing, so what you are worried about will not happen. Don't worry." "Oh." Gu Mengmeng responded, but felt that something was wrong. She thought for a while and looked up. "So they recognized you. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.